Today, I want to talk to you guys the importance of having a home inspection here in the state of California. Okay, so in the state of California, when you purchase a home, the home buyer, I believe, goes through two different hurdles. The number one is getting pre-approved. A lot of home buyers do make money, a lot of money, but it's not always reported. So they don't qualify for the house that they want because based on their tax returns is the numbers are not there. The math is not mathing. So credit, so they go over the huge pre-approval hump. And and once that is done, it could also be that they have the money, they have the work history, they have everything, but they don't have the credit. So they got to fix all that, right? So that's a huge pre-approval hurdle. Once that's done and the math is mathing, then they sit down with the realtor, they start looking at houses, they go shopping at houses for a house with a pool, not a pool, HOA, no HOA, condominium, no condominium, ranch, mansion, hacienda, an estate, you name it, they go shopping. They find the house of their dreams. They submit an offer. Hurdle number two, the inspection, the home inspection. So they call home inspector like myself. We set up an appointment. We inspect the house, and it's a huge house, small house, doesn't matter. We inspect the house. Now, keep in mind that home inspections are a non invasive inspection, which means we don't move furniture, we don't open walls, we're not going to diagnose any systems. If the heater doesn't come on, we're not going to tear it apart and see what's going on with the furnace. That doesn't happen. It will not happen. It doesn't happen. So, but a lot of home buyers, and rightly so, they put us on a pedestal because we should have all the answers for their for their home. If we find water stains in the attic, they always ask us, "Is the roof leaking?" And the answer is always no. It's not leaking. I physically have to see water to constitute a leak. There's evidence of a roof leak. Has it been repaired? We don't know. When was the roof installed? If the house is 20 years old, obviously it's when it was when the house was built. But houses that are, more than 50 years old, even 40 years old, we don't know when was the roof replaced, the plumbing replaced. We don't have that information. And they expect us to have that information, but we don't. We don't have that information. So in California, and every state has their own standards of practice, there is a list that we're going to go. So this is the home inspection that includes all the systems. So system number one, section, foundation, basement, and underfloor areas. Now, when it says underfloor areas, they're not referring to the subfloor and the carpet or the tile. It's underneath the house. We are required to inspect the foundation. We are required to inspect the floor framing system. We are required to inspect the foundation anchoring, underfloor ventilation, crippled wall bracing, wood separation from soil insulation. We are required. The inspector is not required to determine the size, the spacing, location, or adequacy of the foundation bolting, bracing components, or reinforcing systems. De- and number two, to determine the composition of energy rating of insulation materials. Well, what does that mean to you as a home buyer? It means that we are required to inspect the foundation, and if it's cracked, it's cracked. We are required to inspect the framing system. We are not required to tell you that it's wrong because if it's damaged, it's damaged, and that's as far as we can go. Is it wrong compared to current standards? Possibly, but when the house was built, that's the way it was. Crippled wall bracing. We are supposed to inspect it. If it's missing, unless I go under the house, the inspector goes under the house and there's bracing and some of them are missing. Yes, of course, we're gonna. But if all of them are missing, well, we don't know if the house has been retrofit or not. So we cannot. We are not required to tell them that it's missing. We could recommend here in California, Los Angeles, Southern California, well, pretty much all California. It's we're prone for earthquakes, so we just recommend to have it braced. And I believe that a lot of insurance companies are requiring the homes to be seismically, seismic, if I'm saying correctly, seismically braced for earthquakes, of course. We are not determined to give you the size of the foundation. Is it 12 inches under the ground? Is it 18? Um, we are not required to determine the energy ratings of insulation materials. So if we go into the house and it's insulated, we are not required to tell you if that's the right insulation or not. All that we are required is there's insulation and that's it. Is it the right type for the home? We don't know. And there are insulations that, depending on where the house is located in California, if it's located over in the mountains, mountain area like a cabin, that requires obviously more robust insulation because of the snow. So that's section one. The exterior items to be inspected and reported. Surface grade directly adjacent to the building. Doors, windows, attached decks, porch, balconies, stairways that are attached to the building, attached decks or porch. Wall cladding, which is the trim, and the trim. The wall cladding is it stucco? Is it stone? Is it the cladding is the wall covering? What is it? Is it stucco? Is it wood? Is it planks? What is it? Portions of patios, walkways, and driveways that are adjacent to the building. The inspector is not required to inspect the door or window screens shutters. So we're not required to inspect the window screens or the shutters. If the window screens are missing, they're missing. Who cares? Okay. We are not required. Uh, we are not required to inspect awnings or security bars. We are not required to inspect fences or gates or operate automated door or gate openers or their safety devices. Now, this does not constitute the garage door opener. We are required to inspect the garage door opener because it's part of the garage door. What this is telling is if you have a property with a huge gate around the property and there's a mechanical gate, a motorized gate, we are not required to inspect that. We are not required to use a ladder to inspect systems or components. We are not required to use a ladder. It says right there. What does that mean? We're not even required to walk on roofs if we don't want to. If it's too dangerous for us. If we feel that it's dangerous, we're not required to walk on roofs of any type. We are not required. Section 3, roof covering. We are required to inspect the covering, the drainage, the flashing, the penetrations, and the skylights. We are required to inspect all of that. The inspector is not required to walk on the roof surface if, in the opinion of the inspector, there is a risk of damage or a hazard to the inspector. That could be any roof. We are not required. But then again, if we don't walk on the roof, they are deemed to never hire us again. So if it's safe, if the home inspector believes that it's safe to walk on the roof, then he's going to walk on the roof. Otherwise, he's not. Number two, warrant or certify that the roof system's coverings or components are free from leakage. We cannot say that the roof it won't leak. We are required to inspect, like for example, the flashings. There's compromised flashings, then obviously, yeah, they need to take care of that. Attic section 4, attic areas and roof framing. We are required to inspect the framing, ventilation, and insulation. Now, when we inspect the ventilation, we inspect that it's not obstructed, but the hole is a proper ventilation. If it's missing, yes, we need. Sometimes they install a new roof and they forget to put the proper ventilation. But if the ventilation is obstructed, we note that. If it's not enough ventilation, we note that. Is it the right ventilation vents location? We can't. The inspector is not required to inspect mechanical attic ventilation systems or components. So, a lot of homes in areas where it's very hot, they put an attic vent and it has a thermostat. Once that thermostat reaches a certain temperature where the homeowners uh, set it at, that thermostat is going to come on. We're not required to inspect those right there. We are not required to determine the composition or energy rating of insulation materials. Is it insulated? Yes, it is. Is it the right insulation? We don't know. It is. Are there missing insulation? Yes, we're supposed to report that. Now, missing insulation, I noted that if there's no insulation at all, it was probably built before the house was required. A lot of houses in LA didn't require that. Now they do. Plumbing. Items to be inspected: water supply piping, drain waste and venting piping, faucets, toilets, sinks, tubs, showers, fuel gas piping, and water heaters. We're supposed to inspect the condition. The inspector is not required to fill any fixture with water, inspect overflow drains or drain stops, or evaluate backflow devices, waste ejectors, sump pumps, or drain line cleanouts. We're not required to fill any sink, any tub. I do them because the overflow are notorious for leaking. The inspector is not, we are not required to inspect or evaluate water temperature, balancing devices, temperature fluctuation, time or obtain time to obtain hot water. So we're not required to, if the sink the furthest from the water heater takes forever, but it gets hot water, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. We are not required to inspect whirlpool bath, steam showers, or sauna system or components. We are not required to inspect fuel tanks or determine if the fuel gas system is free of leaks, which is propane tanks. We are not required to inspect well or the water treatment system. It's crazy, huh? Number 6, items to be inspected: service equipment, electrical panels, circuit wiring, switches, receptacles, outlets, and lighting fixtures. The inspector is not required to operate circuit breakers or circuit interrupters, which means if I show up to a house or your home inspector show up to a house and they inspect the electrical panel outside and there's a breaker that says whirlpool tub, barbecue, pool, and it's off, we are not required to turn it on to inspect the component. That's as far there's a reason why it's off. We are not required for that. The inspector is not required to remove cover plates. We're not required to remove cover plates. We are not required to inspect de-icing system or components. De-icing system means on certain parts of the United States, I've never seen this in California, but I think what it's talking about is if you live in an area where it snows and your driveway has a heating system to melt the snow, I believe this is what they're talking about. We are not required to inspect those. We are not required to inspect on site photovoltaic or emergency electrical generation or electrical storage system or components. So if they have a backup generator, we are not required to inspect those. Number seven, heating and cooling. Items to be inspected: heating equipment, gas venting, central cooling equipment, energy source and connections, combustion air or exhaust vent system, condensate drainage system, conditioned air distribution system. So we are required to inspect all of that. Venting system, make sure it vents out correctly, meaning that it's not disconnected. Um, we are not required to inspect the heat exchangers or electric heating elements. We are not required to inspect non-central air conditioning units or evaporators, coolers. So, swamp coolers, mini split systems, uh, cooling systems that you put on your window, we are not required to inspect those. Uh, we are not required to inspect radiant, solar, hydronic, or geothermal systems or components. We are not required to determine the volume uniformly of temperatures. So, why does one room get hotter than the other? We are not required to, we could note it, for the evaluation, but that's as far as we can go. We are not required to inspect electric air filtering or humidity control. Number eight, the interior. Items to be inspected: walls, ceiling, floors, doors, windows, stairways, handrails, guardrails, permanently installed cabinets, permanently installed cooktops, mechanical range vents, ovens, dishwashers, or food waste dis- disposers. Okay, waste garbage disposers. Absence of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, vehicle doors and operators. Okay. The inspector is not required to inspect window doors or floor covering. I thought it said that we have to inspect walls, ceilings, and floors, doors, and windows. Oh, it says inspect window, door, or floor coverings. So if it's a rug, we don't inspect it. Window coverings, we don't inspect those. We are not required to determine whether a building is secure from unauthorized entry. We are not required to operate, test, or determine the type of smoke detector or carbon monoxide alarms. We are not required to test vehicle door for safety devices. So what that means, they have a safety device is when the garage door is closing. A lot of home inspectors put a block or they use their hand to see if the garage door opener will kick back. We are not required to do that. Many home inspectors do that and they end up damaging the whole system. I don't do that. We are not required to use a ladder to inspect system or components. Fireplaces and chimneys. Items to be inspected and reported: the exterior of the chimney, the spark arrestor, the firebox, the damper, and the hearth extension. The inspector is not required to inspect chimney interiors. We are not required. This is where you want to get a chimney inspection. Um, we are not required to inspect fireplace inserts, seals, or gaskets. We are not required to operate any fireplace or determine if a fireplace can be safely used. So, if the fireplace is there, if it's damaged, we report that. Is it safe to use? You need to get a chimney inspector for that one. You're probably thinking, then why get a home inspection? Now, okay, let's finish this. Number 10, pool, spa, and hot tub safety. Items to be inspected. We need to inspect the enclosure, the mesh fencing if there's one, pool, spa, hot tub cover if there's one, exit alarm if there's one, self closing, self latching door devices, pool, spa, or hot tub alarms, other means of we are required to inspect those if they're there. If they're missing, we'll make a note of it. The home inspector is not required to verify compliance with any standard or labeling. So if they bought a covering from a cheap place on Amazon or they found something cheap, we are not required to say that's a safe one or not a safe pool cover. We're not required to say that. We're not required to inspect any other components of the pool, spa, hot tubs, or its systems. So there you go. Now, the following are excluded from the real estate inspection. System components of a building or portions thereof which are not readily accessible, not permanently installed, or not inspected due to circumstances beyond the control of the inspector, or which the client has agreed not to be inspected. So we're not inspected to inspect horse stalls or the plumbing in that building. We're not required to inspect anything that's not accessible. If there's no access to go into the house, we're not required. We're not required to inspect, this is excluded. Site improvements or amenities, accessory buildings, fences, planners, um, auxiliary auxiliary features of appliances beyond the appliance's basic function. Systems or components, portions thereof. Anyways, the list goes on and on and on. I don't want to bore you with this, but please read it when you get a chance. You could go to the website, California Real Estate Inspection Association. So there's a lot. So when California is an unlicensed state for home inspectors, home inspectors do not have to have a license in California. Anybody can become a home inspector in California. That's it. If you have enough knowledge on houses, you could just take a course online where you could get a certificate that nobody's going to ask you for. California Association of Real Estate, CREA is a good. I used to be part of this, but um, it just I just quit being a member of CREA. They have good information, but it really wasn't bringing me any business. So in California, it's an unlicensed home inspection state. You're not required to have a license. If you have enough knowledge on homes and real estate, what I would recommend is just go online, find the best um, home inspection school out there, get a certificate, and start handing out business cards. Now, if you're purchasing a home, the telltale sign that a home inspector is a new home inspector in the industry. I'm not saying he doesn't have the knowledge. There's a lot of general contractors that get into home inspections, but the telltale sign of a home inspector that's new in the business is a price point. If it's very low compared to your other quotes, chances are he's new in the business. I'm not saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but think about it this way. A general contractor, he's a generalist, just like us. A general contractor has a lot of knowledge in putting a house together. We have the knowledge to inspect it. Now, keep in mind, home inspectors are inspecting their job, the general contractor's job. We home inspectors, we inspect everything that they do. But think about it this way, comparing it to the medical industry, home inspectors are generalists. We have to have extensive knowledge on everything. If we see something that's questionable, we refer that to a general contractor, a specialist. Once a special, I am not going to override if the roofer comes back and looks at something at the roof that I called out. If he says it's fine, then he owns that. My job is to report, observe and report, give you your unbiased report that I found, my opinion, what needs to be addressed, and what needs to be addressed needs to be addressed. I am not saying that the seller has to fix it. The seller has no obligation to fix anything. Every house here in California and anywhere in the nation, it is sold as is. The seller is not required to fix anything. Anything that you want them to fix, you refer that to your realtor. Now, personally, what I would advise you to do is don't ask the seller to fix anything unless it's required by the lender or the appraisal. The reason I say that is because the seller, he's on his way out. He doesn't care. He's going to get the cheapest, most cost effective way to fix the problem and not do it, not fix it the way it should be fixed. My recommendation is talk to your realtor and work out a deal to get a credit. You get that credit and you find your the contractor of your liking, of your choice, get your look at the reviews, look at everything, and and just fix it. If you know how to fix it yourself. I would not ask the seller to I would not ask the seller to do anything. I wouldn't. Your best bet is to just fix everything yourself, get a credit, a reasonable credit, don't get too crazy. Now, if the credit is, let's just say it's the heating and air system is shot and it's going to cost, I don't know, $10,000. They're, they may, they're probably going to give you 5,000. I'd rather take the 5,000 and put in 5,000 out of my own pocket to get a new system versus they getting a heating and air guy to come out and fix it. If it really needs to be replaced, they're going to try to fix it, making sure that that system is going to be working for maybe the next 2 months, three at the most. And then you're stuck with a bill that needs to be replaced later on. So I would rather take a credit and you get everything yourself. I would not ask the seller to fix anything. Never. I would ask them to give me a credit. Now, if you guys find this video to be helpful, please subscribe. Please like the video. It helps. And leave a comment if you guys have any questions. You guys have a good one.